this? Not. Okay. Well, they're all around. Okay. So, what is this?
Lymph vessel.
It's a lymphatic vessel, right? Do you see the characteristic valve, the V-shaped valve? Okay. Now, this is very distinct because it's like a tube-like structure, right? And so this is going through the tissue, and it allows for, again, we talked about this in lecture, right? How it allows for just one way, okay, because of the valves. Okay? All right, so you shouldn't mistake this for anything else, right? Okay. And this is a close-up view, and there's that V-shaped valve. Okay? All right. And speaking of valves, this is actually taken from over there in that table, and this is a valve within the lymph node. Remember the afferent and afferent valve, lymphatic vessels? Remember that? So this is one of those. Okay, it's just hard to tell whether or not it's efferent or afferent, but I'll show you later on. There's another view of the actual lymph node, and you will see the these zoomed out. Okay, you'll see more than one. Okay. Now, do you recognize this?
Yes.
This is an artery, very good. And this is a vein. Do you recall the picture that I showed you earlier, and I told you that arteries, veins, as well as lymphatic vessels will travel together? Guess what this one is? Do you see the difference in the wall, right? It's very thin. I promise you it wasn't going to be green, but at least the structure is very similar to the one in your book, right? It's a very thin one, and it's also irregularly shaped, just like your veins, but your veins will be much thicker, right? Okay? All right, that's a really good picture also, and it captures all three, so you can distinguish which one is which. You already know two out of them, so that's why it was easy for you to identify which one. And if you notice, you don't really see any cells inside, do you? Right? And like here, you see the blood, and then here it's pretty clear because that's pretty much fluid in there. Okay, now this one is a picture of the Pear's patches, yes. And we saw this earlier. We mentioned that it's going to be around the area of the mucosa, or within the mucosa, the muscularis mucosa, of your intestinal wall. And it should make sense because your intestines are a good high traffic area every day. How often do you eat each day? About 20 times? Okay, so as many times as you eat, you have materials going through there. Sometimes you don't wash your hands when you eat, right? Because you're so hungry and you don't care. And so these are lining your intestinal tract so that whatever comes in contact with that, remember how these are just patches of lymph aggregates, right? Lymphoid aggregates. So you're going to see a lot of cells in there. But is this a tissue or an organ? Just tissue, right? Remember the organ has the actual capsule that separates. So what is an organ? It has to be made up of more than one kind of tissue, right? Yes, but this is just like a group chunked together. Okay, so this is just your lymphoid tissue. Okay, and you won't, or you shouldn't confuse this with the other slides because this doesn't look like the lymph vessel, does it? And what is this characteristic? Remember the, I don't know if you learned about the villi before? This is characteristic of your intestines. Okay, and we'll learn more about that. But if you see this, okay, that's basically the lumen of the intestinal tract. Okay, and this is your intestinal wall. And so you see the aggregates here. here, the dark areas, those are going to be the Pierce patches. Okay? All right, any questions so far? Okay, and you see that? It's very similar, right? It's just a closer view. You see these aggregates? You see those? Those are also Pierce patches. Okay? And your landmark should be this one. They are the villi, right? Like the mucosal folds. Okay. All right, this one. No. No, and I'll show you later why it's not. This is actually, it's got this. The tonsils, yes, the pharyngeal tonsils, okay? Now, are tonsils organs or lymphoid tissue? Check your nose. You need to be sure. Which is which?
Lymphoid tissue.
How many of you say lymphoid tissue? How come you're not sure?
I say it organ.
It's not already. It's not for sure.
I say it
Okay, do you see any capsules around it? It's like a mass of tissues, right? I mean, it's a mass of just kind of like the Pierce patches that we saw earlier, okay? And again, it's just like, we mentioned that the tonsils are, you have 3 kinds, right? The pharyngeal, those are the ones that are usually taken out because they're the ones that are, when they get enlarged, they can get in the way of the airway. All right. And here, you also see some groups, all right? And when I show you the other parts later on, hopefully you'll see the difference, okay? Now this one, what is this? If you notice, it's more dense, it's more closely packed compared to this, isn't it?
Spleen.
Right?
Spleen.
No.
No.
This is the lymph node.
No. Which one?
Lymph node, yeah. See this? See how it has a capsule? Yeah? And this is a vessel, a lymphatic vessel. You also see another one here. So you shouldn't confuse this with a tonsil, right? Do tonsils have those vessels? No. Does the tonsil have a thick capsule?
No.
No. Okay, so this is your lymph node. Okay? What is this? Remember the septations? The one that I showed you in lecture earlier? The ones that have the lobules, and they have clear, distinct lines. So far, we haven't seen anything like that, have we? Right? Nothing with a clear, distinct, and plus it also has a capsule, so this will be a what? It's an organ, right? Not just a tissue. And this is the thymus. So how do we recall? Again, you see the lobes that are separated by these septations, or the lines that you see, right? See how it's divided into several, like 3 lobes here? Yeah, those sections. And again, you have a capsule here, don't you? So it's not a tonsil, definitely not. So you shouldn't confuse this with a tonsil. Okay? So far, I hope you have a mental picture of each one, right? And we'll go over the other ones quickly again later. So this is just a different orientation, but same thing. You have the capsule and you have the septations. Usually it's very darkly stained because it's very dense. Okay, so you're going to see a lot of T cells. So this is just a closer view of that. And again, you have the lobular septations. Okay. Now this one, you've been clamoring for, the spleen. Okay. Now the way that you can distinguish between the spleen, you know how there are also nodules, like aggregates of nodules in the lymph nodes. These will have different shades because you have a red pulp and a white pulp. Okay, so these are the white pulps. If you notice, it's a very lightly stained area in the middle. Okay, those are nodules. Okay, and what you're going to find there are a group of lymphocytes, and also here on the red pulp, just think of the pinkish area. That's the red pulp. You're basically going to find blood material there going through, because blood goes through the spleen, and the spleen actually functions as a junkyard for some of the old red cells that have to retire. okay? And this is basically where they get sequestered, and they get, and the materials are recycled, okay? So that's why you have that. And plus, these nodules, okay, the white pulp that has highly concentrated immune cells, because anytime blood goes through there, remember how, again, it's a lymph organ, right? So what are the lymph organs for? To make sure that the fluid that goes in there, as soon as they leave, right, they will be free of, well, ideally, free of any microbes and things like that, okay? All right, now hopefully you will identify this and not confuse this with the lymph node. Remember, the lymph node is mostly, it has some white areas, but it doesn't have a contrast white and red areas. So this is another view. See how it's like bruising, right? As opposed to the lymph node earlier, which is mostly pink. They're just shades of dark and light pink, right, for the lymph node. But here you actually see light areas in the middle, and then you have the vast red pulp. Okay? Is that clear? Okay. And then this one is, I mean, it's not as good a picture as the other ones, but you still see the white centers. Okay? And this is a very good picture of the up-close view. So there's the red pulp, okay? And then you're going to see, well, this is actually a vein, okay? So that's up close, all right? And it's laden with macrophages. Okay, what is this? Vein, right? See that? I'll show you the lymph node again. Hold on, let's go through everything. You remember this? That's easy, right? Can't confuse that with anything. This one. Remember this? Okay. This one's easy. That one you shouldn't confuse with. Okay. And then this one. Remember, there's no capsule. Okay. It's just your. Do you see red and white here?
No.
No. Is it pretty loose? The way that it's configured? Yes. So it's not a lymph node. It's definitely not a thymus. It's definitely not a spleen, is it? Right? It's a tonsil, right? So these are the pharyngeal tonsils. So things like that. Every time you look at slides, you should be thinking of, because remember how I told you not every single slide will be the same. But you have to remember certain characteristics that distinguishes each one. Okay? Okay. Do you remember this? You should not confuse this with this. See how this is loose, as we mentioned? This is more tightly packed, and this has a capsule. What is this again? Lymph node, right? Why is this not the spleen? Because it doesn't have the contrast red and white pulp. It does have some nodules here, but see how it's mostly, remember the cortex and the medulla? As opposed to the spleen, take a look at this. See how it's like all over the place? It's not distinct, it doesn't have a distinct cortex and medulla layer, okay? Is that clear? See that? It's all over the place and it's the contrast is distinct. What is this?
Thymus.
That's